Welcome to the Cool Fireman Podcast, a virtual firehouse kitchen table with What's a Rolfie, Unky, Fireman 1231, JDB Cubed, and Fireman Freddy. Let's get to the show.
Welcome back to the Cool Fireman Podcast. And this week we're going to be talking about legislation stuff. We talked about last week, types of legislation issues that we have. The fire department, everything revolves around legislation. A lot of people don't know that, from volunteering to the city paid guys to the federal guys to even some of the retirees. All this stuff affects them, and everybody needs to be involved in it. Because I know me and Freddie, we've done stuff with the International Association of Firefighters as officers, so we've been involved with legislation and other things. So I just want to kind of run down what some good topics this past week. Well, this week, the IFF has stormed the Capitol this week to lobby for.
I see what you did there.
Well, that's what we used to say at the conference. We stormed the Capitol until, a couple of years ago.
Allegedly.
That's kind of soft word. Yeah. So they go up there, they make meetings with the representatives on the Congress and Senator side. And IFF gives a book out with all the current legislations that's pending. And you go out there and you just kind of lobby with your representatives and get these bills passed through. We're just going to go review them and chit-chat about them. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Sounds great.
Wonderful.
All right. So the first one in the book that they got is the legislation is called Honoring Our Fallen Heroes Act. It's the Honor Act, and it's pending and being introduced. And the key points are firefighters face significant cancer risks while serving the public, as we were talking a couple episodes ago. The big thing is turnout gear has been recently classified by the EPA as a hazardous substance. The gear that we wear, the federal government has called it hazardous substance. In 2022, nearly 75% of firefighters' line of duty deaths were occupational cancer. So that's a lot. So in this bill, they're asking for the public safety officers' benefits to be updated to include occupational cancer, which is humongous. That's a lot of money left on the table for your family if you pass away from occupational cancer. They're pushing for occupational cancer to be recognized and pushing for Congress to support the families of all line of duty deaths. There's a lot of key facts about it. So that's the first bill. Anybody got anything to say?
So are they looking to create some type of fund that the monies can be accessed from, or is it more of just putting pressure on insurance companies to?
No, it's actually the federal government. It's been a long time since I got the most updated number. It's like $280,000. If you die, line of duty death, your family gets that money.
Okay.
Then you also have state funds. Some of your states will pay your family. I know in Virginia, line of duty death, any in-state school, your kids are covered.
Oh, wow.
So there's a lot of benefits up there. That's why people need to get involved in legislation, because there's so many benefits out there, and people are leaving money on the table for their families.
Yeah.
So this is the money that comes from the federal government. Then you also got state money. I'm being a federal firefighter. I don't get the state money. I just get federal money, just like y'all do. So this bill will take cancer and put it in there with structural collapse, heart attack on a scene, or 24 hours after a scene. And a lot of people don't know, with the line of duty death, they have 24 hours to get your body to a medical examiner. A lot of people don't know that. After 24 hours, benefits go away.
Oh.
And it's a big, serious thing. I don't know why there is 24 hours. I mean, I understand probably something, blood work or whatever like that. But like, for instance, the IFF has made wheelings and dealings with Congress and senators to take bodies across state line so they can get examined by the medical examiners, because some medical examiners have been backed up for a whole week, and they're like, "Oh, we'll have to get it to like later this week." And they're like, "No, you have less than 24 hours," and they go and get special permissions to move the body across the state line, get it examined. So that's what that bill is all part about. It is your public safety officer benefits to make cancer a part of that group.
Dude, Unky, this when you first said that you wanted to do legislation as a topic, I was like, okay, cool. Like, I mean, I get it. And I've been in the fire service for, I don't know, 15, 20 years, whatever. And I briefly heard, this is what goes on. Dude, I've never been an association guy. I haven't been on the board. I help out in other ways in in my department. And I know it is really important, but dude, just sitting here and now just listening to that first, you guys just talked like for the first, 5-10 minutes. I feel like I get to be the guy that's on the other side, in the brown chair watching our podcast going, man, like that's some interesting stuff. And I'm not just saying that because, I'm trying to tout you guys or our podcast or anything, but like this is serious stuff. And I've always known that it's serious stuff, but I mean, just listening to you guys talk about it, it kind of brings it all full circle for me, at least. We have little things that I know about in our city that have given us money into the fire department and for public service or for public safety rather. And so kudos on you on bringing this up. And this is good stuff. I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say next.
Okay. Well, I'll break it down, and I know Freddie will help me out with this. One, your former vice president of your area in California is the general secretary treasurer right now, Frank Lima. And he's done a lot of great work with the federal guys. So me and Freddie will kind of break it down. Go ahead.
Hey, why don't you and Freddie give a quick background of where you stand with your unions, or you getting ready to lead into that of your background with union work?
Okay, Freddie, you go ahead.
So, I 2 years into my first department, I ran for and was elected secretary treasurer of our local, served that position for 2 years. And then we had our second child and things were crazy at home. So I took like 1 or 2 rounds off. Then I was elected president of our local, and I was president for 6 years, which you then become like the face of that local. Lots of phone calls, talking with your other local departments that are around you, talking with the state, talking with regional vice presidents, somebody who covers 5 or 6 states for the IAFF. So you end up in a lot of meetings with the city. You end up in a lot of meetings with other locals, trying to figure out how you can become a 2 or 3-headed monster to address issues. I enjoy greatly the union side of it. Currently, on this department that I'm on now, I don't hold any union title, and that's okay. I have been asked by some of the e-board members that are on this department, hey, we got this going on. What do you think? Kind of just almost as a
trustee
or advisory role type thing. Like, hey, sounds like you might have been through this before. What do you think? And I enjoy that part of my union career right now. There's nothing that says that I won't eventually get back into it, but right now I kind of like where I'm at. I'm able to kind of do a little bit more in a bunch of areas than having to focus on one specific thing. How about you, Unc?
I started off in 2010 as the second assistant secretary treasurer of my local. And then eventually he stepped up to be president. I took over as secretary treasurer. I served until April of last year as the secretary treasurer, and been really involved in it. Went to conferences, legislation, convention, all that stuff. try not to make this, because I want to make sure our podcast goes be able to talk to volunteers.
Make sure that this goes probably to volunteer, paid on call, full time. We want to cover a broad range without, I'm sure, getting too into the weeds about picking political sides and what have you. We're trying to talk about legislative issues that specifically deal with the fire department and what affects us now, and more importantly, what affects us in the future, which is the bill that you had just brought up.
Yeah. So I'm not going to take a like big pro-union stance, but I have a large background in that. So, I mean, does that answer your question, Doug?
Yeah, I just
13 years in it.
Yeah, before we got too deep into it, I wanted you and Freddie to kind of explain where you guys were coming from as obviously at one point, we're pro-union guys because we're union members, but to drive home the point of, why you care so much about it and kind of drive home the emphasis of, if this touches anybody, look, talk to your local if you're in a local. If you're not in a local, if you're in a volunteer agency or paid on-call agency or whatever, talk to somebody to, hey, look, wait, let me start getting some answers as to what's actually available for me. And I just kind of wanted to drive home where this was coming from.
Yeah. Even the volunteers, they can look into their state association, looking for their, like, Virginia Professional Firefighters. It's kind of IFF, but they push state issues, local issues with the local governor and their local Senate. So you get with them, they'll tell you the bills because they need that vote. They need you to go out there and vote for this bill. And even though they're unionized and volunteers aren't union, those bills that go through are going to affect the volunteers, be it truck buying, staffing requirements, any kind of funding, or like line of duty deaths. So it affects everybody. I want to say that, remind everybody, prime example, you city guys, you work for city council, right? That's who your bosses are, city council. But you got to remember, you're their boss. You put them in the office. All right. So it's a well balanced. So you have to work with your city council. You got to work with your state legislative people. And of course, even at the federal level. In my situation, we only deal with the federal level because they are our bosses. And we have committees that we answer to in the military. So that's the biggest thing. So everybody's got to be involved, show your face, talk to them, get them on your side, especially when they're coming up for re-election. And they take a stance against just anything, your beliefs, your personal beliefs, or your job. They take a stand against you. You got to get out there and get the voice out there and tell them, we don't want you anymore. They're bad for business.
Mm-hmm.
So anything you got to add on that, Fred?
No.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So there's all kinds of bills that affect anybody and everybody. Turnout gear. We just talked about the cancer bill, the cancer episode. Turnout gear. What we wear is a big issue. So even at the federal level, there is another bill going out. It's PFAS Alternative Act, and it's pending being introduced. It goes to a committee. We'll say like Representative Matt has written this bill, and he sends it to the committee, and then the committee, as soon as it gets enough people to co-sponsor it, so that means Freddie signs on, I sign on, Doug sign on. All right, it's hit the limit of the bare minimum limit. Now we're going to read it in front of the committee. And the committee's going to go through it, change anything they need to change. Probably, yes, we'll give them new turnout gear, but they got to build me a new bridge in my local town. They do stuff like that. It's called, Christmas tree ornamenting, Christmas treeing.
Yeah.
They add little weird stuff. They sneak stuff in there to get my vote. You got to buy my town a bridge. It has nothing to do with turnout gear.
Quid pro quo.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Squid pro row.
It's politics, and it's rough. So turnout gear is a big issue. So once it goes through the council and it gets approved by the committee, then they'll read it on the floor in front of all of Congress. And then Congress will vote on it. Then it'll go to the Senate and back and forth. So let's roll the PFAS Alternative Act is one that's going out there. Cancer continues to be a big threat to firefighters. Turnout gear contains PFAS chemicals and fails to protect firefighters from carcinogens. Research is needed to develop the next generation of turnout gear, and any research on turnout gear must be led by firefighters. So those are like the key points of that bill. And if you like these bills, you need to call your representatives, your Congress representatives, and your state Senate, your senators. You call them, you tell them who you are. They'll take a little information down, make sure you're a voter for them, and they'll pass it on to their next level person. See if they're interested in that bill. And firefighters, who doesn't want to help public safety people? It's a big win, right? You know, of course, especially with firefighters, everybody wants to put their arm around a firefighter. You know, we have very little to no bad PR
until they want to pay for it.
Yeah,
exactly. Everything, if it costs money at any level, city, state, or federal, it's going to be hard to push, but it's going to cost money.
There's always photo ops at fire departments.
Yep.
Usually they happen in, August, October, September. And typically happen in December, January, February, because the election is over.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other one, another one they got is a health insurance for early retirees. It's the Healthcare for Heroes Act. It's pending introduction. And key points are firefighters generally retire earlier than other workers, leaving many with gaps in assessing quality health insurance. Finding quality health insurance on the open market can be difficult and expensive, and the tax-based approaches can assist early retirees. It's just basically because we have a limit. Do y'all have an age limit in your department where you have to go if you're an operational person on the floor?
Not for us.
Okay.
So you work till you're 70, Matt?
Well, work is
No.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Interesting.
But I mean, as you guys have seen, probably in your departments, the guys that get up there in age, even, our job at 50, 55, 60 years old, you're typically going to start going out on knees, shoulders. And at that point, it's kind of like hey, let's get this ball rolling. You know what I mean? And we've had those members that just couldn't either give it up or, it just wasn't the right time for them, even though they were that age. So what you're talking about this early insurance for the retirees and stuff, that's huge. I mean, I know a couple guys that just literally can't retire because in this economy right now, a thing of eggs is $10, $8-10. Gas is expensive and they got to pay $1,200 to $1,500 a month for insurance just for themselves. Then that doesn't even include their spouses if their spouses don't work. So, I mean, lots of different variables here, but it's very important.
Well, and this legislation is super important. These legislative issues, even just being active in your local politics, because when I was younger, when I was growing up, it was always you'd get into the fire department, you wouldn't make $1 million, but when you were done with your career, you had a pension and you had health care when you retired, and you were set. And then economic times happen, downturns happen, what have you. And unfortunately, it seems very easy that when stuff has to get cut, stuff has to get trimmed, the fat needs to get trimmed, although it wasn't fat to us. It was necessary things, but fire department started losing pensions because they didn't want legacy costs. They want to know that when I retire, the city is completely off the books for me. They don't have another penny coming out of their coffers. So pensions got turned into 401ks. Retiree healthcare got turned into, HSAs or RSA, whatever, retiree health savings accounts. So like right now in my city, I believe I get 3.5% that I put in, 3.5% that the city puts in of my base salary or of my total compensation. It gets put into an account, and it gets put against the market and what have you. So it rises and grows with the market. And then whenever I decide to retire, whenever I decide to walk out, they say, all right, here's this pool of money that together we raised it together while you were working. Here it is. Now, the problem being is people are going to spend a majority of their healthcare money when they're older. So it is significantly easier for a community when you hire young, healthy, fit people to say, well, we'll give you this money now, we'll pay for your health insurance, or we'll give you a discount on your health insurance, whatever, because it's not getting used a lot. Then when you retire, when you start getting all of those health problems, you have to have your coronary bypasses, you have knee, shoulder, hip replacements, you have hearing aids, you have orthotics, you have dentures, you have whatever, glasses. That money starts adding up, and that money that gets put into that pot can only be used for associated healthcare costs. You can't take that $80, $90, $100,000, whatever you're lucky enough to accumulate, and just be like, you know what? I think I'm going to buy a beach house, because that money you can't do anything with it. So, cities are able to get out from underneath that. And it's kind of a bummer, because, those benefits got taken away. And then those benefits get taken away. And then some cities who are maybe in financial hardships are like, hey, we can't give you raises this year because we're in financial hardship. So you're just going to have to make do. So, kind of getting hit from all flanks here. And I want to preface this with, I'm not poor. I make good money, but I feel like when you give 25 years to a city, that maybe some retiree healthcare or something is something that should be able to be earned. That's what, and that's strictly my
especially
opinion.
a job that just kills you. I mean, like your back, your knees, it breaks your body down,
Even if that retiree healthcare is them buying a Part D plan for Medicare, because when you hit, I believe it's 62 and a half, you're eligible for Medicare. You can then buy a Part D plan to supplement it or what have you. I'm not looking for the Cadillac health insurance, but something to help.
So, retirement is always, they always repackage it, rebrand it, and they sell it to you as like, sell you a Cadillac, and you go to pick it up. You're picking up a Mazda.
The family structure.
Yeah. So there's other things.
Metallic pea green.
A Fiero.
There's I'll get it. There's free speech for public safety officers. It's the Public Safety Free Speech Act is pending being introduction, and its key points are: first responders deserve the right to speak freely about their jobs. Firefighters and EMS personnel often are suspended or fired for exercising their rights. Congress must protect first responders' basic rights. Basic protection are needed in all 50 states. When it comes down to why public safety needs protection of our free speech, and there's acts out there like the Guardian Act, I know Freddie knows about, which is, as a union officer, you can speak basically bad about your fire department and not get fired. And the reason why we need this, because we can't strike. All public safety officers, we cannot strike. We have to go to work. So we have to be able to go to the media, go out in public, of course, off duty and stuff like that, and let everybody know, look, we have this issue. We need your help with the votes, the pressure of the council, to make this move. So that's one of the bills that everybody needs help with, because there's so much other stuff goes on, and there's so much information in this thing, which also then ties into firefighter and EMS collective bargaining rights. It's called Public Safety Employee Cooperation Act of 2023. It's all pending. And we'll go into this. The Cooperation Act enjoys broad bipartisanship support while protecting state rights. Collective bargaining helps protect public safety. The Cooperation Act is a matter of fairness for public safety. The Cooperation Act strengthens public safety, retirements, and wages. Basically, what this is, under this administration, they're trying to give collective bargaining rights to the firefighters, which is negotiation contracts. You're able to go and bargain things. So if your chief comes out and says, everybody's got to wear pink tutus, if you don't have a collective bargaining agreement, you're wearing pink tutus starting Monday. And with collective bargaining rights, which is a union thing, you're able to negotiate it. You can, negotiate a red tutu or something else.
What if you have bad legs?
Well, that's why you need to get.
Better stop skipping leg day, Doug.
Suck it up, Buttercup.
Leg day, bro. I got great legs.
You got chicken legs.
So there's a lot of
foghorn, leghorn.
No, he makes he makes chicken legs.
Yeah.
Seen better legs on the table.
So my quick little union plug. I try not to keep it all pro union. Collective bargaining rights is good. Probably Freddystown, you kind of see where unions were good at one time, and it's also kind of hurt, the rise and the fall in the Detroit area. Unions have pros, unions have cons. But if you don't have a seat at the table, you can't negotiate anything. Your boss is going to do it. The unions were put together for safety, fair pay, and retirement. Those are the core things. Beyond that, some of them get out of control. But this gives you collective bargaining rights. And a lot of states, like Virginia, it's a right to work state. Sounds good, don't it? That means no unions.
No.
So.
Right to work for less.
Yeah, without sitting at the table. So, collective bargaining rights are good. So that's what that bill is. And the other ones that they got is affects everybody. They want to reauthorize the SAFER grants. SAFER grants. Have anybody heard that besides Fred? Okay.
Matt, do you guys have SAFER grants?
I don't know if that's specifically what they call them, but
they provide. This bill provides more than $700 million per year to assist jurisdictions in hiring firefighters and purchasing apparatus and equipment. The SAFER grant has also played a key role in saving firefighters' jobs during economic downturns, and it expires on October 1st. So if your city, I know there's a couple of cities here locally that file for this grant for trucks and for personnel. So that money expires. Literally, we call it federal government, a rift could happen. They'd be like, all right, we have money for 100 jobs. SAFER grant goes out. Now we only have money for 80. Somebody's got to go.
Yeah.
So, and this really just helps out your local town pay people's salaries. Buy equipment.
You're actually going to see in Michigan right now, if you happen to look up job postings, we've been using SAFER grants for years. And it's to help get departments back up to the personnel that they need to run adequately. And unfortunately, in the past, there have been some cities that bring employees in on SAFER grants. The SAFER grant usually lasts about 3 years. And what they hope is that in that 3 years of the grant, paying for the salaries and benefits and what have you, that the city is then able to strategically rebudget and pick up those positions after 3 years. Well, unfortunately, here in Michigan, there have been quite a few communities that after that 3 years, they're like, hey, yeah, sorry, money ran out. Those 6 guys that we hired on a SAFER grant just get laid off. But we have quite a few communities that are hiring right now, and you'll see right in the description, non-SAFER grant positions, because people have been conditioned in Michigan that I want to get a job, but I don't know if I want to take a
temporary job.
I don't want to take a safer job because I'm just going to get laid off in 3 years, and then what happens? So that has actually become a way of advertising, like, hey, we've got open positions, and they are non-safer grant positions.
There's
for people in the know,
yeah. So like all this stuff, it affects you, even people that are not firefighters. You know, you want to get involved in the safer grant, make sure that your representative at the federal level is voting for this. And it's usually supported. It's supported by the Republicans and the Democratic Party because everybody loves a firefighter. Everybody wants to support. It's usually a no-brainer. They usually renew this, but if I'm a state your representative, I'm not getting phone calls about this. It's apparently not an issue for my people.
Yeah.
So you have to call, and it takes about at the most 10 minutes if you have a list of stuff, to go to them and tell them, hey, I want to make sure my representative knows that I want him or her to support the safer grant. And they're like, okay, not a problem. And they do a little survey. So there's other ones, and here's one that actually affects me. We have a big issue. Thank God, man. My buddy Greg Russell, he works for the International Association of Firefighters. He's actually a retired federal firefighter from the DC area. And so he knows what affects us and how business is done with politics and stuff like that. And he works for the IFF now in the legislation department under the federal wing. So when they write bills, they're like, prime example, grants. They'll give, many years ago, there was the weapons of mass destruction grants that went out from the federal government. So they took the money, they gave it to all the states. So the federal government went, where's ours? We want to put a weapon mass destruction team together. You have to go to the state and get that money. We gave it all out. And we go to the state for that money. They're like, you're not a part of us. You're federal, but we're in your state. You're not getting this money. It's all because of the way they write stuff. They have to specifically put in there federal firefighters, because if they leave that word federal out of it, we're not a part of it. There's so much legislation and benefits that, I mean, it's no offense, I mean, you city guys got, which is fantastic. We're left out in the cold because they forgot to put one word in.
Yeah.
So Greg Russell with the IFF has been fantastic and make sure that we're getting bills passed. We got a schedule change. We're getting a lot of great things pushed through. So ours is establishing a fair pay in hours for federal firefighters. Firefighters Fair Pay Act of 2023. Basically, it's like federal firefighters at the U.S. Department of Defense work 72-hour work weeks and receive wages of just $12 per hour in some places.
Ugh.
And so it's about changing our work hours. It's a math formula to our paycheck. I'm not going to bore you guys with it, but yeah, we do have some deficiencies in our way we get paid and stuff like that. In our paycheck, we work 72-hour work weeks, and 38 hours of that 2 pay period, it's automatic overtime. It's not an extra hour. We work 144 hours a pay period, and 38 of it is calculated at time and a half. So many moons ago, that 38 hours is considered overtime. It didn't go into our retirement. And that's part of our normal base salary. But that's just how they keep us competitive with the city guys by giving that time and a half. So we got a bill passed. Well, now they'll take that 38 hours in our retirement, but only at single time. So you're still not calculating my retirement at the proper number. So now we're pushing it, trying to like, look, let's give it all 38 hours at time and a half. So we have lost money in retirement by building our retirement fund. And when we retire, we're not getting paid what we've been promised. So that's one of those big issues. Repealing the windfall elimination provision. This is,
and there it is. That's the one.
Apparently he's got it. Oh yeah, I can see it now.
That's the important one.
Let's see. The WEP penalizes firefighters who are exempt from Social Security but paid into the system through a second job. When these firefighters retire, their Social Security earnings from their second jobs are reduced. The IFF supports the Social Security Fairness Act of 2023, which would eliminate the WEP and ensures retired firefighters can receive their full Social Security. So, yeah, that kind of screws you over. Like, your job may not pay Social Security, because like my father, he's from that generation where they didn't pay Social Security because it was part of the retirement package. So when he retired, he got no Social Security, but he's worked so other jobs and paid in other ways that he's able to get some money. But
so this is a topic that there may be people out there that don't even realize this. If you work and your job description, your occupation is listed as firefighter, when you fill out your taxes, it's listed as firefighter. Traditionally, firefighters, public service officers, public safety officers, they had pensions. Social Security was set up as a pension for those who didn't have pensions. All right. So if you had a pension, if you worked for any company that basically had a pension, that you didn't pay into Social Security, that's the way it was. But your company gave you a pension. Everybody was it was a way to try and make everybody equal. So back 10, 15, 20, 35 years ago, it wasn't a big deal. Firefighters had pensions. The general public, they had their Social Security. Well, they started getting rid of pensions. My first department got rid of pensions in 2000. Everybody hired after the year 2000 didn't have a pension. So when I hired in there in 2010, I had a 401k. We didn't pay into Social Security, so I'm not saying I should get it without paying into it, but we begged, hey, can we please pay into Social Security? And that's when I found out about this Windfall Elimination Act, which is you're going to get a third. It doesn't matter if you paid in when you were a firefighter, or for me, I worked since I've been since I was 16. I got hired on my first fire department at the age of 28. I had 12 years of qualifying quarters that I paid into Social Security that now, because I am a firefighter, the government says, you know what, you're a firefighter, so all that money that you put in, you only get a third of it now. And my wife's Social Security, because my occupation is a pension, will also take a cut based on my earnings throughout my career. Her Social Security will also take a cut because strictly of the Windfall Elimination Act. I think it's of 84 or 86. So what this provision, what this bill is looking to do is eliminate that. If you have a pension and you don't pay into Social Security, you don't get it. If you have or if you pay into Social Security, you get it. If you don't pay into Social Security, you don't get it.
To break that simpler, if you got $10,000 in the bank says you only take $2,000. Only $2,000 is yours. That's my money. Yeah. I put it in there. It's mine. It belongs to me. Nope. You can only get $2,000 out of it. The rest is ours.
And I guarantee that there are people out there right now who don't have pensions, who have paid into Social Security for years, whether it's their side gig or whether it's jobs before they became a firefighter, that don't realize that, when you file for Social Security, when you retire, and you're like, well, wait a minute, why am I getting a check for $300? I have 40 qualifying quarters. I should be getting $2,800 a month or something like that. So you can actually go on the Social Security website. You can look. It lays it all out for you. I had 12 qualifying quarters, and it's telling me that I'm going to get $340 a month for my Social Security right now. Okay. Whereas if I enter in all that information and I'm not a firefighter, it would have been close to $1,800.
And we know Social Security in general is messed up. We're not going to go down that route, but it's tied into so many people's retirement and these fine lines. It just goes back and forth to each side of the road. Everybody's got to pay attention to all these little bills because it will chip away. Always pointing a lot of the bills is to chip away at your retirement so that the employer does not have to pay you because you're done. Like Freddie said, you're off the books.
Yeah, I worked for the state for a while before I came to work for my department. And every time they introduce a new leave plan, a new insurance plan, a new whatever, and give you the option don't take that option, because whenever they introduce something new, it's to benefit them and not you. Stay where you're at. And it's the same kind of system. It's just they're constantly trying to put money back in their pocket and take it out of yours because they've overreached or whatever, and they've made a boo boo.
I think this has been a great episode so far, or what have you. Strictly on the informational side of it, like Matt, I know we haven't heard a lot from you this episode, and that's okay, because in watching, I've seen a lot of nodding and a lot of, that I like to call it the inquisitive dog look, where you're like, huh, your head turns side, like you hear a squirrel outside. But I really hope that there are people out there who are listening to this who have made it this far. Listen, I understand if this is not something that you're interested in, this could be a very dry topic, but it's something that I know Unky is passionate about. I'm passionate about. And realistically, this is something that 100% affects you, whether you want it to or not. And if you're not thinking about this, or at least talking to people who are passionate about this in your department, I don't know, man. You're
not
missing.
just affects you, but it affects your family and your dependents.
100%.
And that's what really has to drive it home for you. It's not just you. It's your wife, your spouse, whatever the case is, whatever your marital status is, and any children you may have. That's where it really hits home.
Yeah. We all signed up that with the risk of losing our lives doing this job for however it happens. So we all become family men, and we want to be able to leave something to them, not just disappear.
Well,
there's
we all know in the fire service that there's guys that love to be paramedics and they have the healing hands. There's guys that love to bust down doors and rip roofs apart and all this good stuff. But it's a thankless job being a union thug, and I mean, in my department, they don't get paid any extra. They do a lot of work off duty, obviously, and it's a very thankless job, and it's a huge part of, I mean, obviously we've been listening to this for 40-45 minutes. It's very important. And so
especially when you're in a state like I'm in, where we don't have a lot of leverage to begin with, so we have to have a good working relationship with the board of supervisors in my county and fire administration and stuff. You can't really push your weight around but so much, because you don't really have a ton of leverage as far as being a right to work state.
So it sounds like you start getting ready to wrap it up. I got just a few more things.
Send it, bro. Take your time.
The last bill is when we talk about mental health, helping emergency responders overcome. It's called the HERO Act, which will provide federal funding for the firefighter peer support program, such as the IFS and others, and educate mental health professionals on the unique needs of firefighters. So there's more money that they're requesting the federal government to pay for, to cough up some more money to help out with mental health. So there's another great bill to look into. You can read about them. Go to congress.gov, type in the word firefighter as one word and also space, and they will come up there. If y'all don't mind, guys, maybe we put some resources on our website.
Yeah.
Just so everybody can go that way. Let's see. As I've always been told in my career as a union officer, elections have consequences.
Yeah.
So at the state level, the city level, and the federal level. But as I tell everybody, find whatever issue is important to you, be it something with firefighting or something not, and vote that way. Vote for the person that supports your personal issues. I don't care if it's left, right, or whatever.
Yep.
Just don't go in there blind. I hate when people just go in blind and say, I'm doing all left, I'm doing all right. Elections have consequences. And we put here locally, we put a gentleman in one of our districts, and because he was supportive of firefighters, and he was going to vote for the SAFER grant. Everybody votes for the SAFER grant. And he went and told my union in our face, in our firehouse, I'm not going to touch your retirement benefits. Next, you know what? Next month later, he went in there, signed off on the Congress to gut our retirement, our federal retirement. And we kept trying to call him, talking to him. He's like, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I signed off on it. The Senate's going to fix it.
Nah, that ain't how it works.
No. that's why I've elected those senators, because they're going to stop what you just voted for. So you got to go. And my whole area, all the union locals, we were the only ones, because we couldn't take an endorsement because he was Republican. So we don't really endorse anybody because we're military. Everybody leans to the right. And I got with all the other locals and told them, it's like, look, we're going to vote for this guy. We're going to support him. He's gutting our retirement. This is one of the key 3 things that unions stand for: safety, retirement, and good wage. He's gutting one of the key things. And I got in a heated argument with the union in the DC level over it. And they're like, oh, he votes for the SAFER grant. Everybody does.
Yeah.
So he only lasted 1 term. So he was gone. I got all the other unions on board, told him and said, look, he has attacked our retirement. He's got to go. And we did that. So elections have consequences. Nobody's going to look out for you more than yourself. Y'all not going to look out for me as much as I'm going to look out for myself. So you have to be aware. You can't just blindly trust your elected officials. You have to stay on top of them. Be involved.
Matt will appreciate this. I love me some me.
And I'm going to leave with my favorite quote from our current IFF general president. War is an extension of politics, and politics is our war.
That's belly button deep right there.
You just got a list of sayings on the side, don't you?
No, I just come off the top of my head with them. That's belly button deep. Hey,
that's what I got.
I want to thank B Rabbit for making a guest appearance today.
Oh yeah. You gonna get some mom spaghetti today?
And go.
Have you eaten that mom spaghetti?
In the music, huh?
Have you eaten that mom spaghetti?
He said I'm gonna lose myself.
I have it.
In the music.
I haven't. It was a pop up. I don't know. Is it still going? I know it was a pop up. It was supposed to be a pop up for a couple of months. I don't know if it's still going. I find it weird to go to a pop up restaurant and eat spaghetti, but maybe that's just me.
Can y'all hear my dog snoring? Okay. Gosh,
I thought it was just Matt farting.
She is sawing it down there, buddy.
Something about altitude, man.
I'm real bad after flights, man.
Did anybody get my Squid Pro Row joke?
Yeah.
Austin Powers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Ah yes, Squid Pro Row. I say that all the time and nobody gets it.
It was on Team America too, wasn't it? Squid Pro.
What are you making, Donkey?
Well, I already sent y'all the photo of it. It is
hell yeah, it looked good too.
Butter Swim biscuits. Oh man, I have horrible lighting in here. But look
Butter
at that, man.
Swim?
Yeah. So
like they swim in butter.
This is the key. It's got just a few ingredients. I'm trying to keep
Matt's having angina.
You hit me right in the cholesterol.
Oh yeah. So it starts, as Paul Dean says, it starts with a stick of butter.
Stick of butter.
You melt a stick of butter, you pour it in a 9x9 pan, casserole dish. Boom, put that to the side. Then you get your flour, it's like baking powder, a little bit of salt, a little bit of sugar, and maybe something else. And you mix that up and you just pour it into that 9x9 pan, into all that butter. You kind of smooth it out and you just bake it for 30 minutes. Simple and easy.
I love it.
None of this, you got to freeze the butter and shave the butter and slowly work it in. This is just done.
Just dump it in.
Yeah, and it's everything you got at the house right now. I bet you all have the ingredients, except for Matt right now.
I'm doing it this weekend.
Yeah. So I'll put that up there. We're a little behind on recipes, but we'll put it up there. So that's what I got. And these things are delicious and big.
All right, rookie tip, go.
All right, so a lot of people look at the fire department and they see all these different color hats, all these different things on people's collars, and that's a promotional process. And so my rookie tip, that's officers that get promoted. So my rookie tip this week is whether you're on the job for 1 year, whether you're on the job for 10 years, you need to make sure you got your nose in the book. You are keeping up to date with your education, and making sure that you are consuming as much knowledge as you can on the fire department, because things are always changing. There's always new tactics. There's better things to learn. So make sure your nose is in a book, and ideally that will end up helping you come promotion time, if that's what your department goes with, is testing.
Cool.
Right on.
All right, it's shift change. Let's get out of here, guys.
I'm gonna go get some biscuits.
So watch
Adios.
finish running.